If you are an estate agent, then you should know that the upfront information that the trading standards is bringing on is absolutely vital. We've already had part A, we've got part B and part C to come along. And today I'm joined by Ed Molyneux from the firm Moverly, he's here to talk to me about what all this means for estate agency and how it's going to help. So thanks for joining me today, Ed.
Hi, Chris.
What I'd like to do first is, for those people that have been living in a cave, what is upfront information?
Okay, well, I guess upfront information isn't a new concept. There are actually quite a lot of estate agents out there who are proactive and go to the trouble of getting information from the seller about a property to share with the buyers, but they're sort of maybe few and far between, and certainly not enough to make a difference. And so the whole agenda nowadays about upfront information is by encouraging everyone and maybe even nudging everyone a little bit hard to make sure that they gather these things together for the benefit of the buyer and the seller.
I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm all in favor of transparency, but can you explain a bit more about the benefits of what the upfront information will mean for the estate agency industry?
Yeah, and I think coming at it as a consumer, and I guess we're all consumers as well as it being in the industry. It always strikes me as being a bit weird that you know more about the £25 toaster you're going to buy from Amazon than the house you're about to put a £500,000 offer into. And I think there has been some recent survey work done by the Conveyancing Association last year, which looked into what do consumers think about it. And actually, nearly 100%, 98% of them said they thought it was a good idea, and actually they'd be prepared to pay a bit for that information. And of course, that's kind of where HIPs came about back in the day, and we sort of all know what happened to them. We can dissect that a little bit. So we know it's not going to be like a silver bullet for solving all of the many broken things that there are around the industry, and of course it's not all on the shoulders of the estate agents, but it is a great start, I think, to allowing more transparency, but also just to kick off the process with with a bit more information to help conveyancers and what happens later in the process as well, I think.
You mentioned HIPs or home information packs. There's going to be some people watching this in their early to mid 20s that won't know what the hell you're talking about. So could you explain what HIPs are and where is this upfront information going to succeed where HIPs didn't?
Yeah, and so as many of the those who've been around the industry for a while will know and probably have the scars from HIPs were introduced back in the 2000s. I think it was sort of 2005, 6. So actually, for the same reasons as people are talking about upfront information today, and so the Labour government at the time, as part of their Housing Act, introduced them. There was going to be a staged rollout. It got to quite far down the track. There were these things being produced. People were involved in that, and lots of pushback from the industry, but for reasons of more about detail than about sort of I think opposition to the principle. And then of course finally it was canned in, I think it was about 2007 by the coalition government, which came in. I think largely for political reasons in my personal opinion. Others will have different views on that, but I think their heart was in the right place. Maybe the execution wasn't quite right, and certainly it sort of fell victim to a bit of a political positioning effort, but it was a great start, and I think we can have another go at it now and do a much better job of it this time around.
Do you think
what we're talking about now, especially, is because we're talking about digital information and being able to gather these things really quickly, and not having a manila folder that you can have to photocopy and share around to people, as was the case back in the day. I think we can do things differently.
And do you think that's the difference is the fact that a lot of this information that was in home information packs is available online, and therefore by having this upfront information, then we can get it quicker and simpler and easier?
Yeah, and I think it's also a bit more of a kind of, it's a step-by-step, a baby steps process, maybe is one way of describing it. So we're not, upfront information, as we talk about it in relation to the BASFI form or the PIQ form, or what National Trading Standards are talking about, doesn't have, for example, home condition report in there. So it's a lighter weight type thing. I think you still get many of the benefits of that, of what was in HIPs, but without maybe some of the more controversial parts of it. But it's a great start, I think.
Good stuff. So talk to us about, we've already had part A, so what was in that, and what's coming in part B and part C, and
yeah,
and no one knows when, but your personal gut reaction of when those will hit. And
Yeah,
what
so I
does
think
that mean to estate agents?
yeah, no, absolutely. A Part A, this was back in the summer, wasn't it, last year when that sort of became officially required, and that was really just the top headline items. Obviously things like price, but also things like the tenure. Is it freehold or leasehold? What's the EPC rating? What's the council tax ban? So these kind of fairly chunky and important things that every buyer should really know. Now, at the time it came out, it hasn't been framed as being mandatory. I think it's fair to say compliance with it has been patchy. The last number I heard was about maybe 17% of property listings are fully compliant with Part A, but there was never the intention of trading standards, I don't think, to make it to enforce it hard just with Part A. Now, Parts B and C, now as you rightly say, we don't know exactly what's going to go into those. It's all a little bit subject to a bit of guesswork. We think, and it's been guided by trading standards, that Part B is about the classic things that relate to every property. What's the parking like? What utilities are connected? All these top level things. Part C probably more about things that are specific about a given property, so may or may not be important. So things like flood risk or mining risk or some specific restrictions in the title deed, this kind of thing. What we do know is that trading standards are talking about at least publishing what there's going to be in Parts B and C probably within the next couple of months, is what we're hearing. And there will clearly be some kind of bedding in time for everyone to get used to the ideas. There's work going on, the portals and in CRM systems to be able to make all this possible. So it may be some time before it's actually mandated, but the intention is to mandate it at Parts A, B, and C eventually.
Now, all that, let's be honest, all that information normally get asked for on the conveyancing progress in the process. What does that mean, that we're gonna have to go through all this again when we instruct the sale?
Hopefully not. And one of the reasons why things like the BASPI, the Buyers and Sellers Property Information Form, which is an initiative from the Home Buying Selling Group, which we at Moverly are a part of, why that's important, and why other things like things like the Property Data Trust Framework, which we can go into more details, a bit more of a technical idea. Why they're important is because this information that you're gathering really also needs to be wrapped up in like a little label of where you got it from, so that you can be able to say what the provenance of the information is. And if you can do that, then you'll get much less challenge from conveyancers, because they can see that this has come from the seller, but this has come from land registry. And one of the real challenges the HIPs faced was that the conveyancers wouldn't take a search that somebody else had done because they couldn't trust where it come from. Whereas with the Property Data Trust Framework and the BASPI, you can see that it's come directly from TM Group or One Search Direct, whoever, and so you can trust it. And that should cut down a lot on that kind of re-entry of information.
Okay, I mean, transparency is all very well, but isn't all this information just going to put buyers off? I mean, just to play devil's advocate, isn't it better to get them in the house first, let them fall in love with it, and then let the lawyers sort out the crap afterwards?
and I think that's a real temptation to think that. But I think all agents know deep down that they're just setting themselves up for failure later in the process. Stuff is going to come out of the woodwork if it's going to come out of the woodwork. Sometimes figuratively and sometimes literally, and it is better if people know up front, so that they might want to adjust their price now. But there's always a price that's okay and reasonable for a property, even warts and all. And if you can find that at the point of offer, much better than finding it 18 weeks or days later when when it really puts people off and gets people anxious about it when it surfaces.
Ed, before we go, you obviously don't do all this for fun, but what does your firm do to help estate agents with this problem at Moverly?
Well, so Moverly, I mean, we are one of a number of software providers coming out with really slick and frictionless ways to build property packs, to be able to gather this up in information automatically. So instead of it taking days, it can just take minutes. And one of the really important things for agents is that products like Moverly will be able to integrate with CRM. So for a simple property transaction with a freehold property, it could be that you press a button and then 15 seconds later you've got all the material information just appeared magically in your CRM, which is what everybody wants, really. People have got plenty to be getting on with without having to be chasing information down. So I don't think people should be afraid of upfront information. I don't think it will put buyers off. I think it will just equip them to make the transaction a success, and it doesn't need to be hard work for agents either, I don't think.
Ed, obviously this is not obviously, but as everyone knows, I don't do promotional videos. You haven't paid for this. It's just that someone I trust immensely in the industry said, you need to talk with Ed. I had a chat with him. I thought, yeah, I like him. So I thought I'd get him on the virtual Watkin sofa, because I know we'd get you on the sofa, but I think you're up in Scotland, aren't you? Is it Scotland?
I am. It's a bit of a journey, but yeah, I'd love to join you.
But when this person said you need to speak with Ed, then I dropped everything and had a chat. And I hope you, who's been watching this, have also found it of useful. Ed, how do people contact you if they want to chat to you?
Yep, so I'm just ed@moverly.com, and I look forward to hearing from anybody who's got any feedback or questions or thoughts about Upfront Information that we can learn from.
Thank you, Ed. So that's Ed Molyneux from Moverly. Do check them out. And thank you for your time to Ed today. And more importantly, thank you, the viewing public in the state and letting agency land, for watching. Thank you.